Is it okay if I help her?
That's what she said. Soft voice. Calm tone. Every head turned. A girl was screaming in first class. Tears. Kicking. Couldn't breathe. Next to her sat a man in a black suit. Gold chain. Chest tattoo. Cold face. No one moved. The crew froze. Passengers stared. Everyone knew who he was. Victor Moretti. The man you don't speak to. The man you don't cross. But his daughter was crying. Loud. Nonstop. And he couldn't stop it. Then, a woman stood up. From the back of the plane. Tired eyes. A mother. She walked straight to first class. No fear. No question. No permission. She knelt beside the girl. Spoke softly. The crying stopped. Just like that. Everyone stared. Even Victor. He didn't say a word. He just looked at her. Like she wasn't real. But she was. And she had her own story. One even darker than his. Let me take you back to where it all began. Hi, my amazing friends and family. Welcome back to another story for today. If you are ready to enjoy this heartwarming story, smash the subscribe button and comment where you're watching from. I love seeing all your names and places. Also, don't forget to check out more of our interesting videos on the channel. And guess what? Tomorrow, I have got an even more exciting story to share with you that I know you'll love. Now, back to the story. The plane had been in the air for less than 30 minutes. And already, the sound filled every corner of it. A child's cry. Sharp. Endless. Desperate. It came from the very front. Seat 1A, where a man sat still as stone beside her. His white shirt was open at the neck. A gold chain caught the soft cabin light. His eyes hid behind dark glasses, but the muscle in his jaw twitched again and again. He didn't say a word. He didn't even look around. He just sat there, his hand gripping the armrest until his knuckles turned white. Everyone knew him, or thought they did. Victor Moretti. The kind of name people said quietly. The kind of man flight attendants smiled at but never met in the eye. And now his little girl was crying. Not the kind of soft whimper kids make when they're tired, but the kind that rattles your chest and breaks your heart. "Daddy, please," she gasped through tears. "I want Mommy." Victor's lips pressed tight. He didn't answer. He only stared out the window, his reflection cold and still. The other passengers tried to pretend they couldn't hear. One woman covered her ears with her scarf. A businessman muttered under his breath. Even the attendants, standing in the aisle with forced smiles, whispered to each other. "Should we try to help?" one asked softly. Her colleague shook her head. "No, not him. You don't touch anything that belongs to him." But from the very back, in seat 29C, a woman stopped pretending. Cassie Lane sat there with her little boy asleep against her shoulder. His small hand rested in hers, warm and soft. She looked toward first class, watching the girl cry harder, face red, breaths coming fast and uneven. Cassie knew that sound. She had heard it at 2 in the morning, in small apartments and shelters, when her son woke screaming from dreams he couldn't explain. That sound meant fear, not noise. She bit her lip. She didn't want to get involved. Not with a man like that. Not with anyone who looked like him. But the girl's voice cracked again. "Please, Daddy, please." And something in Cassie snapped. She brushed a strand of hair from her face, whispered to her sleeping son, "Stay here, baby," and stood up. Her knees felt weak. Her heart thudded in her chest. Every step down that aisle was a whisper against the silence. People turned to watch her, some with curiosity, some with pity, some with the kind of look that said, "You're insane." Cassie didn't stop. As she reached first class, one of the attendants gently grabbed her arm. "Ma'am, please return to your seat. I'm just going to help the little girl," Cassie said softly. The attendant's face paled. "You can't. But Cassie was already walking forward. Victor looked up the moment her shadow fell across his seat. His expression was unreadable behind those glasses. The kind of face that could kill with a glance. Cassie's hands trembled. She forced them still. She leaned closer to the crying child and spoke, her voice calm, quiet, like a secret between them. "Hey, sweetheart," she said. "Can I show you a trick to help your chest stop hurting?" The girl looked at her through tears, too tired to speak. Cassie smiled gently. "Put your hand here," she said, touching her own chest. "Now breathe with me. Slow, like you're blowing bubbles." The little girl tried once, failed, then tried again. Her breaths came softer. The sobs slowed. Cassie kept talking, her tone steady, her voice like a warm blanket. "That's it, baby. You're doing perfect. Just breathe." Victor hadn't moved, not a single inch, but his eyes followed every motion, hidden behind glass. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. His voice was deep, heavy, smooth, the kind that didn't need to shout to be heard. Cassie didn't look at him. "Just someone who's seen this before. She doesn't like strangers. She doesn't like fear," Cassie said, still calm. That answer made him pause. The girl pressed closer to Cassie, holding her sleeve like a lifeline. Cassie smiled, brushing the child's hair away from her face. "There you go. Breathe in, hold it, and out." And just like that, the crying stopped. The silence that followed was louder than the noise before. You could feel every passenger holding their breath, waiting for Victor's reaction. Cassie finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were steady, tired, but steady. "She'll be fine," she said quietly. Victor studied her for a long moment, the kind of stare that felt like an X-ray. Then, without a word, he took off his glasses. His eyes were darker than she expected. Not cruel, just empty. He looked at his daughter, asleep now against Cassie's arm. Then he looked back at Cassie. "Sit," he said simply. Cassie hesitated. "Sir, my son?" "Sit," he repeated, softer this time. It didn't sound like a command anymore. It sounded like something else, something close to a plea. Cassie slowly sat in the empty seat across from him. The air was thick, heavy with unspoken questions. For a long while, no one spoke. The engines hummed, the lights flickered, and Sophia slept peacefully for the first time in hours. Victor leaned back, fingers rubbing the edge of his chain. "You're not crew," he said finally. "No. You don't work with children?" "I used to." "What changed?" Cassie's jaw tightened. "Life." Victor looked at her again, longer this time, as if trying to read something behind her words. "Most people stay out of my way," he said. "I wasn't helping you," Cassie said quietly. "I was helping her." His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile, just a flicker of surprise. And for the first time in a long time, Victor Moretti had no reply. The flight continued in quiet. Cassie stayed seated as Sophia slept against her shoulder. Every so often, Victor's gaze drifted toward them. He never spoke. But something about the sight, the small girl safe in a stranger's arms, seemed to soften the edges around him. When the pilot's voice finally broke through the speakers, announcing their descent, Cassie shifted gently, careful not to wake Sophia. As she stood to return to her seat, Victor spoke again. His voice was lower now. "What's your name?" Cassie hesitated. "Cassie Lane." He nodded once, slow. "Thank you, Cassie." Her heart pounded harder, because the way he said her name didn't sound like gratitude. It sounded like recognition. The plane landed. Passengers rushed to stand. Bags clicked. Seatbelts unfastened. But Cassie didn't move. Not right away. She watched Victor lift Sophia into his arms, careful, almost tender, as if the world might break her. As they prepared to leave, he turned to her one last time. "I'll see you again," he said quietly. Cassie didn't answer. She just nodded, unsure if it was a promise or a warning. When she finally walked back to her sleeping son, her hands trembled. Because for some reason she couldn't explain, she knew he meant it. And somewhere deep inside, she also knew that one moment, one act of kindness had changed everything. The airport was loud, not with noise but with life. People moved everywhere, dragging suitcases, hugging loved ones, checking phones, sipping coffee. 1,000 small lives all happening at once. But Cassie didn't notice any of them. She walked quickly, holding her son's hand. Her heart was racing. She kept glancing behind her, expecting someone to follow. She couldn't explain it. Maybe it was his eyes. Maybe it was the way he said her name on that plane. It wasn't just a goodbye. Felt like something had started. Her son tugged her hand. "Mama, can I get a muffin?" She smiled, tried to sound normal. "Not now, baby. Let's get our bags first." But as she turned the corner near the baggage claim, her steps froze. He was there, Victor Moretti, leaning against a black car, arms crossed, sunglasses gone. His eyes were clear now, dark, quiet, watching only her. Cassie's grip on her son tightened. Victor gave a small nod, like this was normal. Like waiting for someone like her was something he did every day. She didn't move. She didn't run. But her body locked up. He stepped forward slowly. No smile. Just calm. Measured. Dangerous. "I meant what I said," he said softly. "I want to talk to you." Cassie blinked. "Why?" He looked down at her son, then back at her. "Not here. I'm not going anywhere with you. I didn't ask you to." She stared at him. Her son stared too, confused. Victor looked around, then gestured toward a quiet bench by the window. 5 minutes. You sit. I talk. Then you decide." Cassie's legs didn't want to move, but something in his voice made her go. She sat down slowly, her son beside her, holding her jacket. Victor sat across from them. Not close, not too far, just enough to talk. He leaned forward. "That girl, my daughter, doesn't let anyone near her, not even family." Cassie stayed quiet. "You calmed her like it was nothing." "I've seen panic attacks," she said. "I know." Cassie's eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "I know who you are, Cassie Lane." The world tilted. Her throat went dry. She looked around again. Were there cameras? Cops? Was this a setup? "I know about Brandon Keller," Victor said, voice low. "I know what he did to you. I know you ran. I know you disappeared." Cassie's stomach dropped. Every part of her tensed. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm not here for him." "Then why are you here?" He nodded toward her son. "Because I saw what kind of mother you are, and what kind of person, and because Sophia needs someone like you." Cassie shook her head. "I'm not a nanny. I'm not hiring a nanny." "Then what?" "I'm offering you safety. A home. A chance to stop running." She laughed once, dry. "You think I trust you?" "I don't care if you trust me. Just listen." His tone didn't rise. It stayed calm, like ice pressed against skin. "My daughter has lost too much. She doesn't need another stranger. She needs stability, patience. Someone who sees her, not just watches her." Cassie looked at her son. He played with the zipper on her bag, not listening, not knowing what hung in the air. She looked back at Victor. "And what do you get?" He answered without blinking. "Peace." For a moment she saw it. The quiet in his eyes. The tiredness under it. He wasn't just trying to fix his daughter. He was trying to fix something in himself. "Come with me," he said. "Stay a few days. You'll be protected. Paid. If you want to leave after that, I won't stop you. Cassie wanted to say no. She wanted to stand up and walk away. But something made her stay sitting. A few days. That's what he said. Just a few days. She felt her hands trembling again. Her body didn't feel like it belonged to her. Felt like she was floating. I have rules, she said. He tilted his head. Say them. My son stays with me. Always. Of course. You don't speak to him like you speak to your men. I don't speak to anyone the same way I speak to you. Cassie's heart skipped once. She hated how her skin reacted to that line. You're not charming, she said sharply. I'm not trying to be. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Victor stood. I'll have a car sent tonight. If you change your mind, get in. If not, I'll never bother you again. He turned and walked away without waiting for a reply. Cassie sat there, frozen. What just happened? Why did he know her name? How long had he known? She held her son close, kissed the top of his head, and whispered, You want a muffin now? He grinned. Yes. She smiled too, but her stomach was tight. Something had shifted, and deep down she knew she was already making the choice. That night, after she put her son to bed in their cheap motel, she looked out the window. A black car sat across the street, silent, waiting. She closed the curtain, then opened it again. The lights on the car blinked once. Just once. It wasn't a trap. It wasn't a rescue. It was a door, and she was the one holding the key. The black car didn't honk. It didn't flash its lights again. It just waited. Cassie stood by the motel window with the curtain in her hand, her breath shallow. The room behind her was dark. Her son lay fast asleep in the bed, his chest rising and falling gently. She turned back to the window. Still there. It was quiet. Too quiet. She grabbed her small suitcase, packed fast. Just clothes, toothbrush, nothing else. She knelt beside the bed, kissed her son's cheek. We're going somewhere new, baby, she whispered. He didn't wake. He just smiled in his sleep. She took that as a yes. Minutes later, she was in the car. The door closed with a soft click. The driver didn't speak, just nodded once, eyes forward, hands on the wheel. They drove through the night, out of the city, past the blinking streetlights, past anything familiar. And then, as the trees thickened and the roads widened, she saw it. The estate, tall black gates, stone walls, cameras tucked in corners, lights glowing warm against the dark. It wasn't a house. It was a kingdom. The gates opened without a sound. The car pulled in slowly, rolling across a perfect driveway lined with hedges so neatly trimmed they looked fake. The house or mansion stood waiting at the end. 3 floors, balconies, tall windows. Every part of it looked untouched by time or dust. It was too clean, too quiet. Cassie's hands were shaking again. She looked down at her son, still sleeping against her side. She kissed his head, heart pounding harder than ever. The car stopped. Before she could open the door, someone else did. Victor. Same black suit. Same calm eyes. No guards. No words. He just looked at her, then at the boy, then stepped back. Cassie stepped out slowly. The cold night air wrapped around her. The silence was loud here. No traffic. No shouting. Just wind and trees and too much stillness. You came, Victor said softly. You waited, she answered. He nodded once, then held out his hand, not to her, but to the boy. Her son blinked awake, looked at the man, then looked up at his mom. Cassie smiled. It's okay, baby. Just hold my hand. They walked in together. The front doors were thick carved wood. Inside, the floors gleamed. The walls were white with gold trim. Paintings hung everywhere, the kind you only saw in museums or old movies. A maid stood silently by the stairs. She gave a small bow. No smile. No words. Victor gestured to her. Lena will show you to your room. Rest. Tomorrow we talk. Cassie nodded. As she followed Lena up the stairs, she glanced back. Victor was still watching. Not staring. Not smirking. Just watching. The guest room was huge. Soft bed. Heavy curtains. A walk-in closet. A bathroom with marble sinks and fluffy towels. Cassie sat on the edge of the bed, unsure if she was allowed to touch anything. Her son jumped onto the mattress with a grin. It's like a hotel. She smiled, brushing his hair back. Something like that. After he slept, she walked to the window. The estate stretched out below. Trees, gardens, paths lit with tiny lamps. Everything was still. Too still. This place wasn't just big. It was lonely. She felt it in the walls. She didn't know if it was haunted, but something inside it was heavy, like memories lived here, and they didn't like visitors. The next morning, Cassie stepped into the dining hall. It was a long room with sunlight pouring through the windows. A table stretched across it, full of food, fruit, bread, eggs, things she hadn't smelled in years. At the end of the table, sitting quietly, was Sophia. The little girl didn't look up at first. She poked at her toast, her eyes low. Cassie walked over slowly. "Hey, baby," she said, sitting beside her. Sophia looked up, then smiled. A small, real one. Cassie smiled back. "Did you sleep okay?" The girl nodded, then surprised her with a whisper. "Do you live here now?" Cassie blinked. "Just for a little while." Sophia looked down again. "I hope it's forever." Cassie's heart squeezed. She reached over and tucked a piece of Sophia's hair behind her ear. "Let's start with breakfast first. Okay?" Sophia nodded. Her eyes looked less cloudy today. Victor walked in moments later. He didn't sit at the table. He stood by the window, sipping black coffee, eyes far away. Cassie watched him. He looked like stone, but not cold stone. Tired stone, like something built too high for too long. She didn't say anything, but he did. "She hasn't spoken to anyone in weeks," he said softly. "Not like that." Cassie looked at him. Kids don't need much. Just someone who doesn't talk over their pain. His eyes met hers. "You've lived through pain too," he said. Cassie looked away. "That obvious?" "Yes." The silence sat between them again. Then he surprised her. "Want to see the garden?" The garden was massive. Trees that looked older than the house. A fountain with a stone angel. Flowers in perfect rows. Cassie walked beside Victor in silence. Sophia ran ahead, her shoes tapping on the stone path. She laughed once. It echoed. Cassie smiled. "She's happier already," she said. Victor watched the girl. "She used to laugh all the time. Before." "Before what?" He didn't answer, but his face said enough. Cassie didn't press. Some things don't need to be spoken. Some things are just felt. She sat on the bench near the fountain. Victor stood nearby, looking at the water. "You lost someone," Cassie said. He nodded once. "My wife." She waited. He looked up at the sky. "She died right here, in this garden. 1 minute we were talking. Next minute she was gone." Cassie felt her throat close. "I'm sorry." Victor didn't reply. He didn't need to. Sophia sat beside Cassie, leaning into her gently. It was quiet again. But this time the silence didn't feel empty. Felt full. Full of memories, regret, and something new. That night, Cassie stood in her room, brushing her son's hair as he fell asleep. She glanced out the window again. For a moment, She saw something. A figure. By the trees. Watching the house. Then it was gone. She stared harder. Nothing. Her fingers froze. Was it real? Or just fear? She closed the curtain slowly. Something told her this place was safer than the world outside. But danger never knocks. It waits in the dark. And watches. The next morning, the sun hit the window slow and golden. Cassie opened her eyes to the sound of birds. Not sirens. Not shouting. Just birds. She didn't know the last time she had woken up like this. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the curtains, the marble floor, the quiet hum of safety that this place carried. She looked to the bed beside hers. Her son was still sleeping, one hand wrapped in the blanket, mouth open just slightly. She smiled. Then she remembered the shadow in the trees, and her smile faded. Downstairs, the house smelled like coffee and warm bread. Cassie walked softly, still wearing yesterday's sweater, hair tied up in a loose bun. She wasn't ready for anything fancy. She stepped into the dining room and stopped. Sophia was already there. She was painting. A thick sketchbook sat on the table. The girl was dipping her brush into a little cup of water, then pressing soft color onto the paper. Blues, pinks, light green leaves. Cassie smiled. That's beautiful. Sophia didn't look up, but her voice came out small. It's the garden. Cassie stepped closer. You remembered every flower. Sophia shrugged. I see things, even when I look like I'm not. Cassie sat beside her. Me too. They painted together for 10 minutes without a single word. It was the calmest Cassie had felt in months. Then Victor walked in. No suit today, just a black shirt, sleeves rolled, hands in his pockets. He looked at them and paused. You're up early, he said. Cassie shrugged. Couldn't sleep. He nodded toward Sophia's painting. She never draws with anyone. Sophia looked up finally. Cassie's not like other people. Cassie felt something shift in the air. Victor smiled just a little. Come with me, he said. I want to show you something. Cassie followed him out to the back garden, where the grass was wet and fresh. They walked down a path that led to a tall tree with a bench under it. He sat first. She sat beside him, legs crossed, hands in her lap. I buried her here, Victor said. Cassie looked at the tree. My wife, Sophia's mother. She loved this spot. Cassie stayed quiet. She had this laugh, loud, messy, like she didn't care who heard it. Every time I walk past this tree, I still expect to hear it. His voice didn't shake, but there was a pause in it, like a heartbeat skipped. She died fast, he said. No warning. Sophia saw it. Cassie swallowed. That's why she gets panic attacks. She doesn't talk about it. Not to me. Not to anyone. Cassie nodded slowly. She doesn't have to. It's in the way she moves. The way she flinches when the room gets loud. The way she shuts down when you get too quiet. Victor turned his head. You read her like a book. I read fear like a language, Cassie whispered. I used to speak it fluently. He studied her. You still do. Cassie looked at her hands. Some days, yes. Victor leaned back against the tree. What happened to you, Cassie? She gave a small smile. You already know, don't you? I want to hear it from you. Cassie sighed. My ex Brandon. He wasn't always violent. But once he started, he didn't stop. I left him, testified. He swore he'd find me. Victor didn't interrupt. His face didn't change, but she saw the fire flicker in his eyes. I changed my name, moved cities, took whatever job I could, always looking over my shoulder. Did he ever find you before? Cassie nodded. Once, a year ago, he broke into a shelter I was staying in. I got away, barely. Victor looked out across the lawn. He won't get near you again. She smiled, tired. You say that like it's a promise. It is. The silence returned, but it was softer now. Cassie stood. I should check on Sophia. She turned to leave. Then Victor spoke again. I trust you. She stopped. It was only 3 words, but they hit harder than any speech. She walked away without looking back. Her hands were trembling again. Later that day, Cassie sat in the guest room while her son colored on the floor beside her. She checked her phone and froze. One new message. No name, just a number. She tapped it open. The picture made her heart drop into her stomach. It was her, on the plane, sitting with Sophia, taken from a few rows back. And below it, a message. Nice of you to finally stop running. See you soon. B. Her hand went cold. Her phone almost slipped. She grabbed her son and held him close. He looked up, confused. Mama! She kissed his forehead. Nothing, baby. You're okay. She forced her breathing to slow. Her heart didn't listen. He had found her. Again. She looked toward the hallway. Should she tell Victor? Would he believe her? Or would this bring more trouble? She couldn't risk it. Not yet. She slid the phone under the mattress. But her face didn't lie. At dinner, Victor watched her closely. Cassie barely touched her food. Sophia spoke more than usual. She giggled when her juice spilled. But Cassie's eyes kept darting to the windows, the corners of the room, the shadows on the floor. Victor leaned forward, elbows on the table. What's wrong? He asked quietly. Cassie blinked. Nothing. Just tired. He didn't believe her, but he didn't press. Not yet. Later that night, when the house went dark and everyone slept, Cassie sat at the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. The photo still sat on the screen. She knew what it meant. He was close. He had followed her here. And if he could get this close once, he could do it again. She looked at her sleeping son, then at the door, then out the window. Somewhere out there in the dark, Brandon was watching. The night didn't end quietly. Cassie barely slept. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow looked like a man. Her son slept peacefully beside her, unaware of the storm about to break. She kept her phone under the pillow, the message still glowing in her mind like a wound. Nice of you to finally stop running. See you soon. B. Those words crawled under her skin and wouldn't leave. When the first light of morning slipped through the curtains, Cassie got up. Her hands shook as she brushed her hair. She didn't look in the mirror. She didn't need to see the fear. She could feel it. Downstairs, the house was already awake. She smelled coffee, heard footsteps. The air was thick, heavy, silent in the wrong way. Victor was in the living room, reading something on his phone. He looked up when she walked in. His eyes stopped on her face, then on her hands. You're trembling, he said quietly. Cassie tried to smile. Just didn't sleep well. He placed the phone on the table. You're lying. Her throat tightened. I'm fine. Don't lie to me, Cassie. His voice was calm, but it cut through the air like a blade. Cassie's lips parted, but no words came. Victor stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't move fast. But when he looked at her, his stare stripped away every wall she had built. What happened? He asked. She stepped back. Nothing. He took one step closer. Someone contacted you. Her stomach dropped. Her heart jumped. How do you know? He didn't blink. Because your face says more than your words ever will. Cassie tried to breathe. Came out shaky. It was a message. From who? She looked down. Her fingers twisted together. From him. Victor's expression didn't change, but something cold flashed behind his eyes. Brandon. She nodded. He moved closer. What did it say? She hesitated, then whispered, that he found me. Silence. Then Victor's jaw tightened. His voice stayed soft, but each word landed heavy. Where is the phone? In my room. Bring it. Cassie froze. No. I'll handle it. He tilted his head. You can't. I have before. Victor looked at her for a long second. Then he turned, his voice calm but sharp. Everything is a test, Cassie. She frowned. What does that mean? He faced her again. You think I brought you here without knowing who you were? What you ran from? What you were hiding? Her breath caught. You knew. I knew everything. Cassie stared at him. Then why? Because I wanted to see what kind of person you are when you think no one's watching. Her chest ached. So this was all a test to you? No, he said quietly. It was a truth. Cassie's voice shook. You watched me. I protected you. That's not protection, she snapped. That's control. He stepped closer again. Do you really think I needed control? If I wanted to control you, Cassie, you'd never have left that plane. She stopped breathing for a second. He lowered his voice. I just needed to know if I could trust you with my daughter. I did. Cassie swallowed hard. Her anger softened, but her fear didn't. He sighed. Now tell me the rest. Cassie sat on the couch, her hands in her lap. Brandon wasn't always like this. When we met, he was charming, sweet. He made me feel seen. He was my escape. Then one night I said something he didn't like. He hit me. I told myself it was stress. I forgave him. Victor's eyes stayed on her. Then it happened again, and again, until I couldn't hide the bruises anymore. When I tried to leave, he threatened me. When I finally ran, he found me. Cassie's voice cracked. I took my son and went to the police. They said they'd protect me. They didn't. I testified anyway. He swore I'd regret it. Her eyes burned. So I ran again. New name. New city. No friends. Just me and my boy. Victor listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he spoke softly. You should have told me. She laughed, bitter. You think it's that easy? To trust another man who could crush me with a look. Victor said nothing. She stood. I didn't ask for your help. I just wanted to survive. He nodded slowly. But now it's not just you. You have a son. He's in my house. And your past just walked through my world. Cassie's heart stopped. What do you mean? I mean your ex isn't stupid. If he found you, he knows where this place is. He won't stop. Her breath hitched. Then what are you going to do? Victor looked out the window. Find him first. Cassie's stomach turned. You can't. I already started. She grabbed his arm. You'll make it worse. He looked down at her hand on his sleeve. That's not how my world works, Cassie. Then maybe your world is the problem, she whispered. Victor studied her face. Then, for the first time, his expression softened. You don't have to be afraid anymore, he said. Cassie blinked. You don't know him. I don't need to. I know men like him. He walked away before she could answer. Cassie stood there, shaking. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air colder. She turned and saw Sophia standing in the doorway, eyes wide. Are you okay? Sophia asked. Cassie forced a smile. Yes, sweetheart. Sophia walked closer. Did Daddy scare you? Cassie knelt down, meeting her eyes. No, Daddy doesn't scare me. Sophia frowned. He scares everyone. Cassie smiled sadly. Not me. Sophia thought about that, then hugged her. It was warm, unexpected, real. Cassie held her tight. She looked over Sophia's shoulder toward the window. The sun was setting, and outside, Far beyond the trees, she thought she saw movement again. A figure, just standing, watching. Her pulse spiked. She blinked. Gone. She didn't tell anyone this time. Not Victor. Not even herself. But deep inside, she knew. Brandon wasn't closing in. He was already here. The night was too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. Cassie lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The clock ticked slow. Her son's soft breathing filled the room. But her heart refused to rest. It beat too loud. Too fast. Something was wrong. She could feel it. She slipped out of bed and moved to the window. The garden outside shimmered in the moonlight. Every leaf looked silver. Every shadow looked alive. She stared at the trees, her hand pressed to the cold glass. And then she saw it. A flicker of movement. Quick, low, close to the ground. Her breath caught. Another shape followed. Taller, broader, moving slowly toward the house. She whispered, "No." Her hands began to shake. She stepped back, heart pounding in her throat. Every nightmare she had ever run from was walking toward her now. She turned and looked at her son, still asleep, peaceful, safe for the last time. Cassie grabbed the phone from the nightstand. She was about to call Victor when she heard it, the faint click of a lock downstairs. It was real. He was here. She grabbed her son and whispered, "Wake up, baby. Don't make a sound." His sleepy eyes opened. "Mama." She pressed a finger to his lips. "Quiet. Listen to me. You hide under the bed. Okay? No noise. Not a word." He nodded, scared but trusting her completely. Cassie helped him crawl under. Her hands trembled so hard she almost dropped the phone. Another sound came, the slow creak of the front door opening. Her blood ran cold. She could hear footsteps now. Heavy, confident. The kind that didn't belong to a thief. The kind that belonged to a man who wanted her. She moved silently to the dresser and pulled open a drawer. Inside was a heavy silver candle holder. She gripped it tight. The footsteps grew louder. The air felt heavy. Then she heard the voice. A voice she had prayed never to hear again. "Cassie," it called softly. "You miss me." Her stomach twisted. It was him. Brandon. He was in the house. Her whole body froze. For a moment, she thought she might faint. Then her fear turned into something else. Something sharper. She moved to the doorway, silent as she could. He was walking up the stairs. She could see his shadow stretching across the wall, long and cruel. He stopped at the top step and smiled when he saw her. "Found you," he whispered. Cassie lifted the candle holder. "Leave." He laughed. "You look good. New house? New man? I heard you got yourself a rich protector." Her hands shook. "Don't talk. Don't come closer." He tilted his head. "I came for my family." "You don't have a family," she said. "You have scars you made yourself." He stepped forward. "Where's my son?" "You'll never touch him again." Brandon smirked. "You think that man downstairs can save you? He can't. You know what men like him do? They use you. Then they bury you." Cassie gripped the candle holder tighter. "And what do men like you do, Brandon? They break what they're too weak to love." That hit him. His smile vanished. In a blur, he lunged forward. Cassie swung. The metal cracked against his arm. He stumbled, cursing. She backed up, gasping. "Get out!" He came again, faster this time. His hand caught her wrist. His grip was iron. She screamed and kicked him hard in the knee. He groaned and shoved her backward. She hit the wall, pain exploding down her back. He grabbed her face. "You think you can run forever? You're mine." Cassie spat in his face. "Not anymore." He slapped her. Hard. Her vision blurred. Her head rang. But she refused to fall. She swung again, this time catching him across the jaw. The metal slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Brandon stumbled. Then something in his eyes changed. He looked wild, dangerous. He pulled a knife from his pocket. Cassie froze. The light glinted off the blade. She could smell the metal, sharp and sour. "Please," she whispered. "Don't do this." He smiled. Too late. Before he could move, a small voice screamed behind him. "Stop!" Sophia stood at the end of the hallway, barefoot, holding her stuffed bear. Brandon turned. "Well, what do we have here?" Cassie's heart dropped. "Sophia, go back. Run." But before the girl could move, footsteps thundered from below. Men in black filled the hallway, guns raised, ice cold. Victor was at the front. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His voice was quiet, deadly quiet. "Drop it." Brandon turned slowly, smirking. "So this is the famous Victor Moretti. I was wondering when you'd show." Victor's eyes went to Cassie, blood on her face, terror in her eyes. Then to Sophia, trembling in the corner. Something inside him snapped. He looked back at Brandon. "You came into my house." Brandon laughed. "Not for you, boss man. For her. She's mine." Victor stepped closer. "Not anymore." Brandon lifted the knife. "Then come take her." Victor didn't blink. "Last chance," he said softly. Brandon lunged. A single shot cracked through the hallway. Loud. Final. Brandon's body hit the floor. Cassie gasped. Her knees gave out. The candle holder rolled away and hit the wall. Sophia screamed. Victor turned instantly, pulling her close, covering her face. Cassie couldn't move. Her body shook from head to toe. The sound of the shot echoed in her head again and again. Victor looked at her. His voice came low. "Are you hurt?" She tried to speak. Nothing came out. She just shook her head. He stepped forward, still holding Sophia, and reached for Cassie's hand. She flinched at first. Then she felt it, his hand steady and warm. "You're safe now," he said. She looked at him, eyes wet. "You killed him." Victor didn't answer. His face stayed calm, but his hand tightened slightly on hers. One of his men spoke quietly from behind. "Boss, what do we do with the body?" Victor didn't look away from Cassie. "Take it away." Cassie's breath caught. "You can't just." He stopped her with a look. "He came to kill you. I stopped him." The truth was simple, heavy, unshakable. Cassie pressed her hand to her chest. She could still feel her heart racing. Sophia buried her face in Victor's shoulder. "Is she okay?" she whispered. Victor looked at Cassie. "She's strong," he said. "Stronger than anyone I've ever met." Cassie's eyes filled with tears. "I don't feel strong." He smiled just a little. "You don't have to." They stood there for a moment, surrounded by silence and smoke. The danger was gone, but the house didn't feel safe anymore. Victor turned to his men. "Get the girl out of here. Make sure she doesn't see anything." They nodded and led Sophia away gently. She looked back once, eyes wide and full of worry. Cassie watched her go. Then she looked back at Victor. "What happens now?" He stepped closer, his voice soft but steady. "Now you rest. And tomorrow you tell me everything you never said." Cassie nodded slowly. For the first time, she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. But the night had changed everything. She wasn't just a guest anymore. She was part of something darker, something powerful, something that scared her and made her feel safe at the same time. Victor watched her as the guards cleaned the hallway. She could still smell gunpowder. She could still taste fear. But beneath it all was something new, a feeling she couldn't name yet. And it wasn't fear. The hallway still smelled like smoke. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was thick, stuck in the air like dust. Cassie sat at the edge of her bed, hands locked in her lap. Her fingers were red from gripping too hard. She hadn't moved since Victor's men cleared the floor and took Brandon's body away. She could still see it. Brandon's face, his last smirk. The moment the shot stopped everything. She should have felt relief, but all she felt was empty. Her son was safe, sleeping beside her again. Sophia was with a nanny down the hall. She had stopped crying, but her face hadn't lost that wide-eyed look. And Victor hadn't spoken to her since the hallway went quiet. Not a word, not a whisper, just silence. Cassie didn't know if that scared her more. By morning, the house was polished. Every broken piece gone. Every trace of blood wiped clean. Like it never happened. But Cassie hadn't slept. When Lena came to knock softly at the door and say, "The boss wants to see you," Cassie didn't hesitate. She just nodded. She followed the maid through the halls. No guards, no footsteps, just the sound of her own breath, sharp and unsteady. Lena stopped in front of a dark wooden door. "He's inside." Cassie opened it slowly. Victor sat at a long table in a room that looked like a private courtroom. Black walls, tall ceilings, a single glass of water in front of him. Nothing else. He didn't look at her at first, just stared at the surface of the table, lost in thought. When she stepped in, he finally raised his head. Cassie swallowed. "You wanted to see me." He stood and walked to the window. His voice came out low. "He wasn't dead." Cassie blinked. "What?" "Brandon," Victor said. "The shot missed his heart." She stared at him, stunned. "He's in the basement," Victor added, calm like he was talking about the weather. Cassie felt the floor shift under her feet. "You're keeping him alive?" "For now." She stepped closer. "Why?" Victor turned to her. "Because you deserve answers. And I deserve control." Her stomach twisted. "What are you going to do to him?" Victor looked at her, steady and cold. "That depends." "No," she said quickly. "Victor, I don't want this." He raised an eyebrow. "You don't want justice?" "I don't want revenge." His voice sharpened. "After everything he did to you? After what he nearly did to your son?" Cassie's eyes filled with heat. "I didn't come here for blood. I came here for safety." Victor moved closer, step by step. "Sometimes safety has a price." "I'm not like you," she said. His jaw clenched. "I never asked you to be." Cassie took a shaky breath. "If you kill him, that makes you the monster he said you were." Victor looked at her for a long time. "Do you believe that?" "No," she whispered. "But I believe it will change you." He turned back to the window. The silence grew again, but it wasn't angry. It was heavy, sad. After a long pause, he said, "I didn't want this life. I was born into it. I don't get to walk away from the blood. I just try to keep it from touching the people I care about." Cassie's voice cracked. "And do I fall into that group?" He didn't turn around. "You do now." Cassie pressed her hand to her chest. Her heartbeat was wild. Victor kept his back to her. "I never brought a woman into this house before. Not like this. Sophia. She never let anyone in. But she let you. She clung to you like you were air." Cassie's throat closed. "And you," he said, "walked into my world without asking for anything. Not power. Not money. You didn't even ask for protection. You asked to leave." Cassie stayed quiet. He finally turned to face her. "I'm offering you something else now," Victor said. Her eyes flicked to his. "What?" He walked closer, stopped right in front of her. "A life," he said. "Not a job, not a deal. A real life, with protection, with peace, with me, with Sophia." Cassie felt like the air had been pulled out of the room. "You want me to stay?" she whispered. "I want you to stop running." Her hands trembled. "Why me?" His voice dropped lower. "Because you didn't look at me like a monster. Even when I scared you." She looked away. He stepped closer. "Because you looked at my daughter like she was a child, not a burden." Cassie felt her eyes sting. Victor raised a hand but didn't touch her. "And because, when everything went wrong, you didn't freeze. You fought." Cassie stepped back. "I don't know who I am anymore." "Then let me help you remember." Her heart pounded louder than the words in her head. She didn't know what to say. "I can't promise it'll be easy," Victor said. Cassie looked up. "What if I say no?" He nodded once. "Then I'll let you go. No tricks. No threats. Just goodbye." She didn't answer. She walked out of the room. Her steps felt too loud in the empty hallway. She sat in the garden for hours. Her son played near the fountain, laughing, splashing water with Sophia. The two children were already close, safe, light in their eyes. Cassie watched them. She remembered the days when she didn't know what safety meant, when she clutched her son in motel bathrooms and begged the universe for just one more day. Now here they were, alive, breathing, together. But at what cost? Victor was not a good man. She knew that. But he was a man who saved her. A man who listened. A man who didn't flinch when she told the truth. She watched her son chase Sophia around the rose bushes. Their laughter echoed through the trees. And for the first time in forever, Cassie smiled without guilt. That night, she returned to the same room where Victor waited. The lights were low, the air still. He stood when she walked in. She didn't speak. She just walked forward and stood in front of him. "I'm not saying forever," she said. He didn't reply. "I'm saying I'll try." He nodded. "That's all I needed." Cassie let out a long, quiet breath. "But there are rules." "I'm listening." She looked him in the eyes. "If I ever feel trapped, I go." "You'll never feel trapped." "If my son isn't safe for even 1 second, I go." "He'll be safer than I am." She nodded. "Then we start now." Victor smiled, a real smile. Small, honest, maybe even a little scared. Cassie looked around the room. It was still dark, still full of shadows. But now there was a light, small, soft, and it was hers. Morning light fell through the curtains like gold dust. Cassie stood by the bed with her suitcase half open. Her hands moved slowly, folding clothes that still smelled like the soft soap from Victor's house. Each fold hurt. Each movement felt like tearing a piece of herself away. Her son sat quietly on the floor, lining up his toy cars one by one. He didn't ask where they were going. He already knew. Cassie looked at him and tried to smile. "We'll be fine, baby. Just us again like before." But her voice cracked. Even to herself, it didn't sound fine. She looked around the room. The soft walls. The white curtains. The window that looked out to the garden where Sophia and her boy used to play. Felt like a home now. That was the hardest part. She zipped the suitcase and took a deep breath. A small knock came at the door. She turned. Sophia stood there, her blonde hair messy, still in pajamas, holding her stuffed bear tight against her chest. Cassie's throat closed. "Hey, sweetheart." Sophia's eyes looked confused. "Lena said you're leaving." Cassie forced a smile. "Just for a while." Sophia shook her head. "You're lying." Cassie knelt down, her knees weak. "I have to go, baby." "Why?" Sophia's voice cracked, small and breaking. "Did I do something wrong?" Cassie's chest hurt. "No, you didn't. You've been perfect." "Then why are you leaving?" Sophia's tears began to fall. "Please don't go." Cassie pulled her close, holding her so tight it almost hurt. Because sometimes people have to walk away before the world takes something worse from them. Sophia sobbed into her shoulder. You said you'd stay. You promised. Cassie's hands trembled in the girl's hair. I know, honey. I know. The sound of soft footsteps came from the hallway. Cassie looked up. Victor stood there. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just watched. Cassie slowly stood, still holding Sophia's hand. I was going to say goodbye, she said quietly. He nodded once. I know. Sophia ran to him and hugged his leg, crying harder. Make her stay. Victor knelt, cupping the girl's face gently. Sometimes, little one, we can't make people stay. We can only let them choose. Sophia shook her head. But she's ours now. Victor's eyes flicked to Cassie. Maybe she still is. Cassie's throat burned. Don't make this harder. He stood. I'm not trying to. I just want you safe. I'll be safe, she whispered. You won't, he said softly. Not out there. Cassie blinked back tears. Out there is where I find out who I am. He looked at her for a long moment. And if who you are is here? She didn't answer. He stepped closer, his voice quiet. You could have peace here, Cassie. For once in your life. She looked down. Peace isn't freedom. His lips pressed into a line. Freedom without safety isn't freedom either. For a moment they just stood there. No words, just everything unsaid. Sophia's small voice broke the silence. Can I come with you? Cassie knelt again and took her hands. You have to stay with your dad. He needs you. Sophia's tears fell harder. But I need you too. Cassie hugged her again, holding her close, her heart breaking with every second. You're stronger than you think, Sophia. You make people better just by loving them. Don't forget that. Sophia nodded, sobbing. Cassie kissed her forehead. I'll see you again. Okay? The girl clung to her one last time before letting go. Cassie turned toward the door. Her son ran up and grabbed her hand. Mama, are we going now? She nodded. Yes, sweetheart. We're going. They walked down the hall together, past the guards, past the walls that had once felt like protection and now felt like chains. When they reached the main doors, Victor was waiting. He looked the same, calm, sharp, distant, but his eyes told a different story. He handed her a small envelope. Money, papers, a phone. If you ever need me, you call. Cassie took it, her hand shaking. I won't. He nodded. I know. She turned away, but he spoke again. Cassie. She stopped. He stepped closer. You walked into my life without fear. You walked out of it the same way. That's something I'll never forget. She wanted to say something, anything, but her voice failed. So she just whispered, Thank you. He gave a slow nod. Take care of your boy. She looked at him one last time, and for the first time since she met him, she saw something behind the calm, something raw, something that looked like pain. Then she turned and walked out. The car waiting outside was already running. The gates of the estate were open, the sky soft and gray. Cassie's son climbed into the back seat, yawning. Are we going home? She hesitated. We're going somewhere new. She told the driver to go. The car rolled forward slowly, the gravel crunching under the tires. Sophia's cries still echoed in her head. The way she said please. The way Victor's eyes stayed on her until the car turned away. Cassie pressed her forehead against the window and let a single tear fall. Freedom. That's what she had wanted all her life. But why did it feel so heavy now? The trees outside blurred past. The estate grew smaller behind her. When they reached the gates, Cassie's chest tightened. She could still hear the crying. Still see Victor standing tall and still on the steps. Still feel the house that had somehow become more than walls. The car stopped. The driver leaned back. Miss, there's a car behind us. Cassie looked through the mirror. A black car. Victor's. She turned around in her seat. The other car didn't move. It just sat there, headlights glowing faintly. Cassie's breath caught. Her son reached for her hand. Mama! She didn't answer. She looked at the gates ahead. They were wide open. The road beyond stretched into fog. She looked back again. The black car was still there. For a long moment, she didn't breathe. Then she said softly, "Wait." The driver paused. "Miss." She opened her door and stepped out. The air was cold. The gravel crunched under her shoes. The wind carried the faint sound of birds waking in the trees. Cassie stood in the middle of the road. The black car didn't move closer. It didn't honk. It just waited. She wiped her eyes, trembling. Maybe freedom wasn't running. Maybe it was choosing where to stop. She turned slowly toward the estate. The house was barely visible through the fog. But she could feel it. The warmth. The silence. The people who had somehow become her family. Her heart pounded. Her son's voice came from the car. "Mama? Are we still going?" Cassie looked at him, then at the house, then back at him, and she smiled through her tears. "Not yet, baby." She walked back to the car, her legs shaking. She leaned down, kissed her son's forehead, and whispered, "Let's go home." He frowned. "Where's home?" She looked toward the fog again. "You'll see." Then she turned around, back toward the black car. It didn't move. It didn't need to. She already knew what waited at the other end. She walked toward it, slow but sure, her steps steady, her choice made. And somewhere in the fog ahead, behind the gates she had just left, a man stood watching. His heart as still as the morning air. The road behind her was empty. The road ahead was fog. Cassie stood between both, her heart pounding like it didn't know which way to beat. Her breath came out in white clouds. The air smelled like rain and pine. The black car still sat behind her, quiet and still. The open gates waited in front, like they already knew what she was about to do. Her son's voice broke the silence. "Mama, are we going?" She looked at him through the window, his small face pressed against the glass, his eyes wide and trusting. Cassie smiled softly. "Not yet, baby. Just one more stop." She opened the door, her hands shaking slightly, and stepped out. Her shoes crunched on the gravel again. The world was so still she could hear her own heartbeat echo. She turned slowly toward the estate. Her chest ached. Her throat burned. But her steps began to move on their own. Back toward the fog. Back toward the gates. Back toward the life she thought she had to leave behind. The guards at the entrance didn't say a word when she walked past. They only nodded. Their eyes didn't hide surprise, only quiet respect. The house rose through the mist like something out of a dream. The same house she had called a cage and then a refuge, and now something she couldn't name at all. Every window glowed faintly with light. It looked like it was waiting for her. When she reached the steps, she stopped. Her hands were trembling again. Her heart felt too big for her chest. The front door opened before she could knock. Victor stood there. No guards. No words. No suit today. Just him. Barefoot. Quiet. His shirt half unbuttoned. His hair messy like he hadn't slept either. They stared at each other. Neither spoke. Neither moved. Cassie felt her throat tighten. "You knew I'd come back." Victor shook his head. "No. I hoped." Her eyes glistened. "I didn't come for safety. I know. Or money." He took a small step forward. "I know. I came for her," she whispered. He didn't ask who. He didn't need to. Victor looked over his shoulder. "She's in the garden." Cassie's voice cracked. "Is she okay?" He nodded. "She hasn't smiled since you left." Cassie swallowed hard. Then let's fix that. The garden was still damp with morning dew. The sky had begun to open, streaks of sunlight cutting through the gray. Sophia sat on the grass near the fountain, her stuffed bear in her lap, her head down. Her small shoulders moved as if she was humming to herself, trying not to cry. When Cassie stepped onto the path, Sophia looked up. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes widened. For one long heartbeat, neither moved. Then Sophia screamed, "Cassie!" She dropped the bear and ran, barefoot, fast, tears streaming down her cheeks. Cassie knelt just in time to catch her. Sophia hit her chest and wrapped her arms around her neck, crying into her shoulder. "You came back. You came back." Cassie held her tight, pressing her face into the little girl's hair. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Sophia pulled back just enough to look at her. "You promised you'd come back." Cassie brushed her cheek. "And I keep my promises." Behind them, Victor stood at the edge of the path, watching, silent, his hands in his pockets, his face unreadable. Sophia ran to him next, grabbing his hand. "She's home, Daddy." Victor looked down at her. His lips curved slightly. "Yes, she is." Cassie's heart twisted. "Home." The word landed softly, but it stayed. Later, they sat on the stone bench near the fountain. The air was warm now. Sophia played in the grass with both children, laughter echoing through the trees. Cassie and Victor watched in silence. The sound of the water trickling behind them filled the spaces between breaths. Cassie finally spoke. "I should have told you I was coming back." Victor shook his head. "You didn't have to. I thought leaving would make things easier." "Did it?" She smiled faintly. "No." He leaned back. "I didn't expect you to choose this life again." Cassie looked at the sky. "It's not the life. It's the people." He turned his head toward her. "The people?" She smiled softly. "Her. And maybe you." Victor didn't look away. "Maybe?" Cassie laughed under her breath. "Don't push it." He smiled too. It was small, real. The kind of smile that looked like it hadn't been used in years. The silence after was different now. Warm, comfortable. Cassie closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the sun on her face. It feels strange, being calm. Victor looked out at the children. "It won't last forever." "I know, but it's good while it lasts." Cassie nodded slowly. "Yeah, it is." Sophia's laughter carried across the garden again. She was spinning in circles, arms open wide, her stuffed bear forgotten on the grass. Cassie's son chased her, laughing just as loud. Cassie watched them, tears filling her eyes. Victor noticed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she said softly. "It just feels right." He didn't speak for a long time. Then, without turning, he asked, "Are you staying this time?" Cassie looked at him, really looked. The man everyone feared. The man who hid pain behind calm. The man who had changed everything without asking for anything. She took a breath. "Let's try this again." Victor turned his head slightly, his eyes finding hers. He didn't smile this time. He didn't need to. His eyes said everything. "Then we start again," he said. Cassie nodded. "We start again." The children's laughter filled the garden like music. The fountain shimmered under the sun. The air smelled of wet grass and hope. Victor sat beside Cassie, his arm resting loosely along the bench. Not touching her, but close enough to feel her warmth. They didn't talk about tomorrow. They didn't talk about what might come. For once, there was no plan, no running, no pretending, just peace. Imperfect, fragile, but real. Cassie looked up at the sky again. "Do you hear that?" Victor tilted his head. "What?" "The sound of quiet. The kind that doesn't scare you." He smiled faintly. It suits you. She smiled back. It suits us. Sophia ran up suddenly, laughing. Come play. Cassie and Victor exchanged a look. Cassie stood and took Sophia's hand. All right, one game. Sophia beamed. Promise. Cassie nodded. Promise. Sophia ran ahead, shouting with joy. Victor stood beside Cassie, watching her go. The garden shimmered in the sunlight. The air was warm and alive. And for the first time in years, Cassie felt like she wasn't surviving anymore. She was living. Later, when the children were tired and the sun began to fall, Victor turned to her. Cassie! She looked at him. Yes. He hesitated for a moment. Thank you. For what? For coming back. She smiled. I didn't come back for you. He nodded slowly. I know. But his eyes said something else. Cassie laughed softly. You're impossible. He looked at her. Calm. Steady. No. Just patient. The world went quiet again. The soft kind of quiet that holds everything good inside it. The wind moved through the trees, brushing past them like a whisper. Cassie watched the last bit of sunlight touch the fountain. And for the first time in her life, she didn't want to run. Not anymore.
Thank you so much for staying with me until the very end of this story. If you enjoyed this story, I promise you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more thrilling as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.